picture the highest stakes white-collar crime you could possibly imagine.
Oh, like a massive corporate embezzlement.
Exactly. Like a highly trusted government official who is systematically draining the public treasury, just millions disappearing over an extended period.
Right. And eventually, the math has to catch up with you.
Yeah. The auditors finally catch the discrepancy, the authorities move in, and it's just this ironclad legal case. And the penalty for this level of treason in this specific era, it's death.
Wow. So there's no way out.
No way out. We all know how this script plays out, right?
Hmm.
You expect to see the disgraced executive like shivering on the courtroom steps, hiding their face in shame.
Right. It's the classic trajectory of greed. You know, that hubris of thinking you can outsmart the system and then bam, the crushing reality of the consequences.
What if we took that exact scenario and completely shattered the ending?
Okay, I'm listening.
What if, instead of hiding his face, this criminal is dragged to the execution block, stares directly at the executioner's blade, and just bursts into genuine ecstatic laughter?
Wait, he left.
He laughs out loud. And what if, instead of going down in history as this corrupt fraudster, he actually survives? And not just survives, but becomes one of the most revered, absolute top-tier spiritual figures in the entire Buddhist world.
Okay, I mean, that sounds like a completely fabricated legend. If you pitched that to a Hollywood studio, they'd be like, no, that's way too unbelievable. You don't just pivot from high treason to the pinnacle of spiritual enlightenment.
I know, but it is entirely real. So today, for this deep dive, we are unpacking the mind-blowing history of this brilliantly unconventional, deeply rebellious Chinese Buddhist master. His name is Yongming Yanshou.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, we're going to figure out how this historical figure basically hacked the legal system of his day to pull off a staggering act of rebellion. And more importantly, how he built this hyper-rational philosophy that permanently changed how human consciousness is understood.
Well, to really grasp the magnitude of his philosophy later in life, we have to start with that double life he was leading, you know, before he ever put on a monk's robes.
Right, set the scene for us.
So the context here is super crucial. We're looking at 10th century China. Specifically, it's the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms period.
So right on the cusp of the Song dynasty.
Exactly. It was this era of political fragmentation, but also really strict authoritarian control. And our guy is living in Yuheng County, operating as a government tax official.
So he's not like some rebel hiding out in the woods.
No, not at all.
He's a bureaucrat. He is part of the system. He's dealing with ledgers and tax collection and public revenue.
He is. And worse than that, well, he was the specific person entrusted to protect those ledgers.
Oh, man.
Yeah, if you read historical biographies, like the biographies of eminent monks of the Song dynasty, they reveal that he leveraged that exact position of trust to actively siphon off massive amounts of government tax money.
Wait, so he's orchestrating an ongoing embezzlement scheme.
A massive one.
See, stealing tax dollars is an absolute corporate compliance and legal nightmare in any era. I mean, it's the equivalent of a modern CFO secretly wiring millions out of the company to an offshore account.
Right, it's the ultimate betrayal of trust.
And in 10th century China, messing with the emperor's treasury, that's not just a fine, right? Or a slap on the wrist.
Oh, absolutely not. It was undeniable high treason against the state. That is a guaranteed fast-track death sentence.
Which begs the obvious question, like, what on earth was he spending all this stolen money on?
Yeah.
Because if you're taking a lethal risk like that, you're usually, I don't know, building a secret palace or hoarding gold.
Right, or buying up massive estates. But that is where the historical record takes this huge turn. He wasn't spending a single stolen coin on himself.
Wait, really? Nothing.
Nothing. He was funneling the entirety of those embezzled government funds into a specific Buddhist practice called life release.
Okay, you're going to have to break that down for us. What does life release actually look like, especially on that kind of massive scale?
So life release involves intercepting animals that are destined to be killed. He was secretly going down to these bustling markets and the commercial docks, and he'd take this mountain of stolen state wealth.
The tax money.
Exactly, the tax money. And he'd systematically buy up thousands upon thousands of fish, shrimp, birds, livestock, anything headed for the slaughterhouse or the cooking pot.
Yeah, and what did he do with them?
He would purchase them, transport them out to the rivers and lakes and forests, and just release them back into the wild to save their lives.
Wow. So he is essentially running this massive, highly illegal, underground animal rescue operation using the government's money.
Yep. That's exactly what he was doing.
That is a staggering contradiction because the act itself is, you know, a massive legal betrayal, but the motivation is driven by this radical, almost aggressive form of compassion.
It really is. And he had to know the auditors were going to show up eventually. I mean, you can't indefinitely bankrupt your own department to buy thousands of birds and fish without the math catching up to you.
Yeah, accounting always finds out.
Always. So when the discrepancies were inevitably flagged, the authorities investigated, the paper trail was exposed, and he was arrested.
And the sentence.
Exactly what you'd expect. Death by beheading.
Okay, so the math catches up with him. He is marched to the execution grounds. The blade is literally waiting. This is the moment where the laughter happens, right?
Yes. So King Qinshu of the Wuyu Kingdom had personally ordered that the executioners observe his demeanor really closely.
Like, he wanted to see him break.
Basically,
Yeah.
the king wanted to know how this rogue official would face his end. And instead of breaking down or begging for mercy or showing even a shred of terror, Yongming Yanshou simply laughs out loud.
That is, I mean, there is something incredibly powerful about that reaction. It's total fearlessness. He's staring death in the face and finding it genuinely amusing. What was he thinking?
Well, he loudly declared to the executioners, "I saved tens of thousands of lives. Now I can go straight to the Pure Land."
Oh, wow. So to him, the transaction was just a massive success.
Exactly. He had successfully traded his one fragile, temporary physical life to purchase the ongoing lives of tens of thousands of sentient beings. In his mind, he'd already won the game.
That level of conviction is staggering. And so the king gets word of this reaction.
Yeah, and the king is profoundly shaken by it. He realizes this isn't just some corrupt politician who got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. This is a man operating on a completely different moral axis.
Right, because the stolen wealth wasn't in a vault. It was swimming in the rivers.
Exactly. And that completely dismantled the king's sense of justice. So he issues a full pardon.
He actually lets him walk away from high treason.
He pardons him, and he grants him permission to ordain as a monk. So at the age of 30, he officially leaves the government behind and enters the monastic life.
That's incredible.
And the cultural impact of this was so massive that later folklore claims King Yama, the lord of the underworld, the judge of the dead.
Yeah, the one who weighs the sins of humanity.
Right. Legend says King Yama was seen physically bowing to a statue of him in reverence for his incredible merit.
The judge of hell bowing to a former tax fraudster. That is a massive paradigm shift. But here is where his story takes a turn that I actually find genuinely confusing.
Oh, how so?
So he gets the part, and he becomes a monk. Given his history of orchestrating this high-wire underground rescue operation, I'm guessing he doesn't just, fade away into the mountains and sit quietly under a tree.
Oh, far from it. He accelerated. He dove into the monastic world with the exact same intensity he brought to the treasury. He rapidly rose to become the third patriarch of the Feian school.
Okay, and that's a Zen school, right?
Yes, a highly respected lineage of Zen Buddhism. He was universally recognized as a top-tier, highly realized Zen master, but his daily life looked nothing like that minimalist, quiet existence we usually associate with Zen.
Right. The 108 practices. Because I was reading about his daily routine preparing for this deep dive, and it sounds exhausting.
It's beyond exhausting. Every single day, without fail, he completed an intensely rigorous routine of 108 different Buddhist and ascetic practices.
Every single day.
Every day. We are talking about thousands of full-body prostrations, hours of vocal chanting, reciting massive philosophical texts, actively feeding the hungry, and engaging in constant, physically demanding altruistic deeds. It was a superhuman physical and mental grind.
See, okay, I have to push back on this logically.
Go for it.
If he is already a top-tier, fully enlightened Zen master, why is he grinding through 108 physical practices a day? That makes no sense to me.
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, it's like a billionaire CEO who has already built a global empire, right? But then insisting on personally scrubbing the office floors, answering every single customer service email, and then running an ultramarathon every night. If you've reached the peak of the mountain, why are you frantically climbing the stairs?
I love that analogy. And honestly, that perceived contradiction is the exact friction that birthed his greatest philosophical contribution.
Really? How so?
To Yongming Yanshou, this relentless physical grind, scrubbing the floors, bowing thousands of times, saving the animals, it wasn't contradictory to his high-level enlightenment. It was the active mechanism of it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and he actually codified this understanding in his foundational text, Wan Shan Tong Wei Ji.
Okay, let's slow down and unpack that text because the title alone is heavy. Wan Shan Tong Wei Ji. What does that actually translate to, and what does it mean for our, billionaire CEO scrubbing the floors.
It translates roughly to the treatise on the common end of myriad good deeds.
Myriad good deeds.
Right. In Buddhist philosophy, myriad good deeds refers to the thousands of distinct physical and mental actions you take in your daily life. Prostrating, chanting, saving a fish, meditating.
Okay, and the common end.
The common end means that all these seemingly different scattered actions actually converge into the exact same realization. He was proving a point about how all practices connect.
Which brings us to the massive, bitter conflict happening in the Buddhist world at that time. Because not everyone agreed that all practices were equal, right?
Not at all. It was deeply polarized. You essentially had two opposing factions that were highly critical of each other.
Break down the divide for us.
Okay, on one side, you have the Zen tradition. Zen is fiercely dedicated to self-power.
Self-power.
Yes. The entire goal is to realize enlightenment strictly from within your own mind through rigorous, unyielding meditation. You strip away all illusions through your own sheer focus and insight.
Got it. Very minimalist. Just you, your physical posture, and your own mind doing all the heavy lifting.
Exactly. But on the other side, you had the Pure Land tradition. Now, this path relies entirely on other power.
Other power, meaning like outside help.
Yes. It centers around devotional chanting, specifically calling out to Amitabha Buddha. The practitioner relies on the infinite vow and power of that specific Buddha to save them and ensure they are reborn in a perfect, suffering-free paradise, the Pure Land.
Right, where enlightenment is guaranteed because the environment itself is perfect.
Precisely.
You know, this dynamic feels incredibly familiar to me. This sounds exactly like two competing tech ecosystems.
Oh, how do you mean?
Well, think about it. Zen is like a closed, self-contained, highly strict local operating system. Imagine building a custom Linux machine.
Okay, a Linux machine.
Yeah. You have no internet connection, no external tech support, no cloud backup. You have to write all the code from scratch yourself, compile it, and debug it. It is immensely powerful, incredibly secure. But if you hit a wall or your system crashes, you are entirely on your own. That is pure self-power.
A very apt visualization. I like that. And the Pure Land approach.
Pure Land is like open source, cloud-based software. You aren't relying on your own local hardware's processing power. You're relying on the power of a massive external network, Amitabha's network.
Right, the cloud.
Yeah, you just log in by chanting the name and the cloud server does all the heavy lifting. It backs up your data, secures your progress, and ensures you don't lose anything when your local hardware inevitably fails.
That captures the functional difference perfectly.
But the problem in the tech world, and I'm guessing in 10th century Buddhism too, is that the purists from those two ecosystems usually despise each other.
They really did.
The local hardware purists think the cloud people are lazy and dependent. And the cloud people think the local hardware purists are making things needlessly difficult and, like, arrogant. How do you possibly merge those two mentalities?
He merges them through a staggering work of philosophical integration. To bridge this gap, he authored an encyclopedic masterpiece called Daizan. Yes, the source mirror record. In it, he draws heavily upon the profound philosophy of the Huayan Sutra, focusing entirely on a concept known as mind only.
Mind only. Meaning that absolutely everything we experience, the physical world, other people, the environment is generated by consciousness.
Precisely. The Huayan Sutra argues that the universe is not a collection of external, separate objects, but rather a vast, interconnected web that is entirely projected by the mind. The mind is the builder of all reality.
Okay, I follow that.
So Yongming Yanshou took this abstract premise and applied it directly to the Zen versus Pure Land debate, creating the concepts of mind-only Pure Land and self-nature Amitabha.
Wait, I have to stop you there.
What's the sticking point?
If everything is just a projection of consciousness, right?
Right.
If the mind builds all reality, why the relentless physical grind? Why did he need to physically carry thousands of fish to a river or physically bow 108 times a day? Couldn't he just sit on his meditation cushion, vividly imagine saving a fish, and achieve the exact same mind-only result?
That is the most common misunderstanding of mind-only philosophy. Yes. The mind is not just a blank movie screen where you can project whatever you want without effort. The mind is a deeply entrenched web of habits, karmic momentum, and physical attachments. You cannot simply think your way out of a physical habit. To rewrite the deep underlying code of consciousness, you have to engage the physical interface.
Oh, wow. So physical action is the keyboard you use to reprogram the internal software.
Exactly. That's exactly it. When he bows or when he saves a physical fish, the physical effort, the humility, the tactile sensation of the water, all of that is the mechanism that purifies the internal mind. The action is the realization. Scrubbing the physical floor is the exact mechanism of scrubbing the mental code.
That clicks into place perfectly.
Yeah.
So how does he apply this to merging the Zen OS and the Pure Land cloud?
He argued that the Pure Land is not some distant physical galaxy millions of light years away that your soul travels to after you die. The Pure Land is a reflection of a completely purified mind manifesting right here, right now. And Amitabha Buddha is not an external deity sitting on a throne separate from you. Amitabha is the awakened, infinite nature of your very own consciousness.
He is bringing the cloud server inside the local hardware.
He is proving they were never separate to begin with. Sitting in silent meditation to realize your own mind, which is Zen, and actively chanting a Buddha's name to connect with the infinite, which is Pure Land, are just two different user interfaces for the exact same operating system.
Because both functions rewrite the same code.
Exactly. When the mind is pure, the environment is pure.
That completely dissolves the tribalism. You don't have to choose between rigorous self-reliance and asking for external help. They are feeding the exact same source.
And this realization is what fueled his 108 practices. He understood that every single good deed is a valid interface. You don't just pick one tool, you use the entire toolkit, because every tool reinforces the others.
Which brings us to the ultimate metaphor. He had a specific phrase for what happens when a person actually masters both of these seemingly opposing paths, rather than fighting over which one is better.
Yes. Yes, he did. This is his famous four selectives metaphor. He stated that if you cultivate the profound, unshakable, grounded wisdom of Zen, but you actively combine it with the safety net, the compassion, and the forward momentum of the Pure Land practice, you become completely unstoppable.
Now, what did he call it?
He called a person who integrates both a tiger with horns.
A tiger with horns. An apex predator with an upgrade. I can picture that so clearly.
It's a great image, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a tiger is already terrifyingly self-reliant. It has the power, the agility, the grounding that's the Zen practitioner. But then you take that apex predator and you bolt medieval weaponry onto its head. It gets these massive horns. That is the Pure Land. You have the total self-reliance of the tiger combined with an unstoppable external force pushing you forward.
Exactly. A tiger doesn't strictly need horns to survive, but with them, it can crash through any obstacle whatsoever without injury. Yongming Yanshou argued that relying exclusively on Zen is actually quite dangerous for most people.
Because you might crash.
Yes. If your mind wavers, if you get sick, if you face extreme trauma, your local hardware might crash and you have no safety net. But if you have the Pure Land as your safety net, if your data is backed up to the cloud, you can practice Zen with absolute reckless fearlessness.
Because you know you cannot fundamentally fail.
Exactly.
Which brings us right back to the execution block. It all connects.
Yes, it does.
He was able to stare at the executioner's blade and laugh because his mind was completely grounded in the present moment. That's the Zen tiger. But he also knew that by saving those thousands of animals, his network connection to the Pure Land was rock solid. Those are the horns.
It is a flawless synthesis of his life and his teaching. He didn't just write abstract treatises about being a tiger with horns, he embodied it.
Yeah, he really did.
He hacked the rigid legal system of his era to save thousands of lives, fully accepting the physical cost. And then he hacked the bitter philosophical divisions of his era to prove that seemingly opposite approaches the quiet inward focus of the mind and the active outward devotion of the body actually empower each other.
It is a remarkable legacy. I mean, he's a master synthesizer who looked at a deeply divided world, a world where people felt forced to choose between saving themselves or relying on a higher power, and proved that the division itself was the illusion. The local hardware and the infinite cloud are built from the exact same code.
It makes you wonder, if a 10th century monk could merge the two most bitterly divided opposing factions of his entire world by simply changing his internal operating system to realize they share the same source, what massive, unsolvable conflicts in our modern world are actually just illusions waiting for a mind-only perspective.
Wow. Yeah, where are we drawing battle lines between two things that are actually just different interfaces for the same goal? That is a profound question to sit with. Finally, we have a brief apology and a request. Here at AI Buddhism University, we try our best to minimize the mispronunciation of complex Buddhist terminology, but due to the limitations of AI technology, some occasional errors might slip through. Please forgive us. If you have any advice on how to improve the AI's pronunciation, we would love to borrow your wisdom, so please let us know in the comments. We will continue to cover fascinating topics like biographies of great monks, sutra explanations, and the hidden history of Buddhism, so we are also waiting for your topic requests in the comments. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. We'll see you in the next explanation. Thank you for listening.